Well, welcome to another Lightblade Learning Lab. Today we're not even going to turn the machine on because, apart from warning you about the dangers of burning yourself on the laser, burning your eyeballs on the laser, looking after your laser, looking after your mirrors, looking after your lenses, it's one continuous look after. The one thing we haven't mentioned is looking after yourself. Now, this machine is actually relatively benign because as soon as you put this lid down, everything is pretty safe. With the exception that once you start cutting material in here, you produce fumes, you produce smoke, you produce horrible smells. Now, anything that smells horrible, anything that's got smoke, should serve as a warning. Don't breathe it in because it could be dangerous to you. This is a piece of industry standard equipment which basically looks after you, your eyes, your lungs and your health. Now, if you were in industry, in a factory or running a business, then it would be mandatory for you to have one of these. It's not mandatory for me to have one of these in this workshop because I'm a private individual and I can do what I damn well like. But I don't really want to kill myself. Now, you can buy this machine without this piece of kit here, this fume extraction. Now, this is a recirculating fume extraction system, which means that if you're in a heated environment, and I'm not, I'm in a very cold workshop, any air that you draw in, you recirculate. Any heat that you draw in, you recirculate. So you don't waste heat by pumping it out through an external venting system. Now, I'm not a salesman for Purex, but what I am going to do is explain to you today that this optional extra that you can get with this machine really shouldn't be considered as an optional extra. It should be considered as an essential. And I think you'll soon understand that once I start talking about some of the chemicals that this machine can produce and some of the dangers it can have to your health. So I'm not even going to explain how this Purex system works. You know, you push a button, it turns on, it makes a noise, it sucks in air and it recirculates clean air. And what happens in here is magic. But you can find out all about that on the Purex website. Now, you will see me using this machine with the door open. That's not a major problem because this system here has got so much airflow through it that it just sucks in huge volumes of air through the front there and it never gets near me. So all the fumes are wafted back into and through this unit before they're recirculated. Now, there's absolutely masses of data online about cutting and burning various plastic and wood materials. I mean, even wood you would think is a safe material, but some of the resins in the wood can produce carcinogenic fumes. Don't trust anything. Before you cut it, do your research. Now, I have here a piece of MDF, which is full of all sorts of resins that hold the wood chips together. It's supposedly laser grade material. Now, what laser grade material is, I don't really understand, because any resin, any plastic will produce fumes. So even though it may well cut nicely, it probably produces toxic fumes in some way, shape or form. So let's now move to the office and we'll take a look at some of the data that's available online. I'm only going to show you a small portion of data, just to frighten you a little bit.
Well, we're going to start off here at the Purex website because if we move across to fume extraction, it just goes through some of the stuff that I've already summarized for you. Now, I'll just point out this to you, depending on where you are and your neighbours, it may well be that external emissions regulations will be a problem to you. You know, it's not environmentally friendly to just chuck your fumes outside the door, as I have to admit I do with my original Chinese machine. Now, here we've got a very neat summary of some hazardous fumes, and particularly I want to bring your attention to this section here, which is called laser marking, and obviously cutting, because marking and cutting both require heat. If we take a look at some of the materials that we've got down here, and we see some of the emissions that can occur. I mean, things like benzene, phenol, HCN. Now, some of you guys will know what HCN is. That basically is hydrogen cyanide, which is I think you'd probably understand, a killer gas. It's used in gas chambers. Horrible things like benzene. They all seem to produce benzene in some way, shape or form. Toluene. These are all hydrocarbon type gases which have got, if we take a look down the bottom here at benzene, a known carcinogen responsible for leukemia. All I can do is just ask you to look down this list here and this list here, and you'll compare and see what the problems are. I'll bring your attention particularly to PVC, polyvinyl chloride.
Now, one of the most dangerous gases that you're going to encounter is hydrogen chloride. Now, HCl gas is basically a gaseous form of an acid. As soon as it touches something aqueous, like your eyeballs, which have got fluid on them, or your lungs, which are full of fluid, it will immediately turn to hydrochloric acid. You don't want that either in your machine, because it will corrode the slideways, or you don't want it in your lungs. Now, this is one of the things that you really must never cut on a laser machine. And one of the simple tests that you can use to check the plastic before you do it is what I'm doing here. Look, I've got a piece of copper wire here. Now, when you heat the wire up, you'll see that it glows red hot. Don't get these fumes up your nose, but look, I've got here a piece of old wire which I know to be PVC covering on this wire. They don't use PVC covering on a lot of cables these days because of its dangers. But look what happens when I put it in the flame. We're looking for a green colour. There we go. Can you see that green colour? Now that tells me categorically that that piece of cable contains PVC. The other sort of thing that you might find with PVC in it, I mean, this is a handle off of one of these flexible dip handles. Now the chances are that this is PVC, but we can check. So we'll make it warm, and we'll just get a little bit of it on the surface, a smear of it, and then we'll pop it in the flame. And my goodness me, there's PVC for you. That's chlorine gas that you're seeing turning green. Now, this is not a test that I invented. This is a test that I've seen somebody else doing on the internet. So I'm taking no glory from this. All I'm saying is it is a very convenient way of testing as to whether or not you've got chlorine in the material that you're cutting. If you have, don't cut it. Doesn't look to be anything deadly in there. No green fumes. That's a glossy cardboard. Just checking that nothing green comes off that. So, just because it's card doesn't mean to say it's safe, because it depends what's in the card, what glues there are, what plastic you've got on the surface of it.
You'll see that your electronics cabinet is not sealed, so consequently this gas can also get in and corrode your wiring in there. Not a good idea. PVC is one of the biggest no-no materials for laser cutting. Something that we would consider normally to be a fairly benign and non-dangerous material is acrylic. Different people know it by different names. It could be perspex, it could be plexiglass. Basically, it's this product here called poly. Well, it's called methyl acrylate, and it's known as PMMA because it's polymethyl methyl acrylate. Apart from the smoky bit that you can see, which is the respirable dust, it also produces MMA, which is actually the raw methyl acrylate. It produces benzene and ethyl acrylate, Now benzene in particular, as we look down here, we find that you know, it's this known carcinogen. Again, you can go and you can look at these fact sheets which come from all parts of the world. Some of them are American, some of them are British standards, some are European standards. You will find out, you know, just how dangerous methyl acrylate is, how methyl acrylate enters and affects your body. Now, I'm not going to go through the details of this. All I want to show you is that there is a hell of a lot of data online relating to the safety of these materials. So here we are at another very useful website. It not only tells you materials that you should never cut, sometimes it doesn't explain why, but it also tells you materials that you can cut and what sort of results that you will expect. Very useful. Well, that's about as far as I want to go today. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch up with you in the next session.